Hello, everyone. Welcome to Unfiltered and Unapologetic, the space where we heal out loud, bring our culture into the conversation, and remember that softness is our strength. I'm your host, Caitlin Gil-Soto, born and raised in Lawrence, Massachusetts, always traveling between Bani and El Cibao, and proudly Dominicana. Today's episode is called Rebuilding Self-Trust After Betrayal. This one's for anyone who's ever stayed too long in love, in friendship, in situations that kept asking you to shrink. It's for the people who saw the red flags and tried to paint them white because you loved someone's potential more than their reality. It's for those of us who have forgiven too quickly, prayed too hard, and confused grace with tolerance. I've been there. There were times where I begged God to make things work with people who were already showing me they weren't meant to stay. Times I swallowed my intuition because I didn't want to seem too much or too sensitive. And every time I ignored what my spirit already knew, the resentment grew quietly. Not toward them, but toward myself. That's the thing about betrayal. The first person you stop trusting isn't always the one who lied to you. It's you. The part of you that knew better. That felt the shift. That whispered something's off but got silenced. So today, we're talking about what it means to rebuild that trust. To believe yourself again after you've doubted your own discernment. Because self-trust is holy. It's how you hear God's voice more clearly. It's how you walk in peace instead of people-pleasing. Let's start with where it all begins. The quietest betrayal of all of them. The moment you stop listening to yourself. Before anyone ever lied to you, you felt something. That tension in your chest, that hesitation before saying it's fine, that deep knowing that something wasn't sitting right. And instead of trusting it, you reasoned it away. You said, maybe I'm overreacting. You said, they didn't mean it like that. You said, it's not that serious. But every time you dismissed that nudge, you abandoned yourself a little. In Dominican culture, many of us were raised to aguantar, to endure, to keep things smooth, to not make a big deal. You learned to be agreeable, to keep peace at the expense of your truth. You learned that discomfort meant you were being dramatic, not discerning. And that's how self-betrayal begins. One small silence at a time. Self-trust isn't lost in one dramatic moment. It's chipped away when you say yes while your heart screams no. When you apologize for things that weren't your fault. When you stay quiet so someone else stays comfortable. That's the part of healing no one warns you about. That rebuilding trust starts with owning how often you abandon your own instincts. You can't rebuild self-trust if you keep treating your intuition like a problem to fix instead of a compass to follow. Your intuition is not anxiety. It's divine intelligence. It's your body remembering what your mind is trying to forget. It's God's way of saying, I'm speaking to you through what you feel. So maybe the first step toward rebuilding self-trust isn't asking, why did they do that to me? But rather, why didn't I believe myself when I saw it? Because the moment you stop questioning what your spirit already knows, that's when peace begins to return. I have a journal prompt here for you guys. When did I first learn to doubt what I felt? And the affirmation for this question is, my intuition is protection, not paranoia. Forgiveness is sacred, but it doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen or forcing yourself to be the bigger person when your peace is still bleeding. I used to think that forgiving someone meant welcoming them back into my life. That if I didn't, I was being cold, petty, or unhealed. Because in our culture, we're taught that forgiveness is about other people, about letting them off the hook. But real forgiveness, it's about letting yourself off the hook. It's choosing peace over punishment, release over resentment, closure without contact. Forgiveness is when you look at what happened, stop trying to rewrite it, and say, this too had a purpose. But it's also saying that purpose doesn't require my presence anymore. You can wish someone well and still remove yourself from what wounded you. You can love them and still let them go. You can forgive and still choose distance. Because grace without boundaries is self-betrayal in disguise. I've forgiven people who've never apologized. I've released situations I never got closure from. And I've learned that closure doesn't come from their words. It comes from your decision to stop waiting for them. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is walk away without hate. To stop replaying the story and just say, God, I surrender it to you. Handle what I can't. Because when you release someone, you're not saying they were right. You're saying you're done carrying what they broke. Forgiveness isn't an open door. It's a final blessing on something that's already over. So the next time guilt tries to make you reopen a door that peace already closed, remind yourself, you don't owe anyone repeated access to a heart they mishandled. The truth is, you can forgive and still protect your space. You can forgive and never go back. You can forgive and never explain. Forgiveness isn't a second chance. It's the end of suffering. I have another journal prompt here for you guys. Who have I forgiven but still kept too close? And the affirmation for this question is, forgiveness releases them. Boundaries protect me. Now, let's talk about resentment. Not the kind you throw at other people, but the kind that slowly turns inward. When you keep giving too many chances, resentment doesn't always start loud. It begins quietly, in the pit of your stomach, in the sigh you take after another apology, in the voice that says, I knew this would happen again. You start resenting them for disappointing you. But if you sit with it long enough, you realize the resentment isn't really about them. It's about you. You're angry at yourself for staying, for explaining what you made clear 100 times, for forgiving when you hadn't even finished healing, for giving your best to people who were okay with giving you confusion. That's the cycle. You overextended, you suppress, you forgive prematurely, and then you boil quietly in disappointment. Not because you're bitter, but because you silenced yourself again. Resentment is the body's way of saying, I'm tired of carrying what peace already released. When you give too many chances, your spirit starts to lose respect for your own boundaries. Your heart starts whispering, you said this was the last time, but your guilt keeps answering, maybe one more. And then one day, you don't even get mad when it happens again. You just go numb. You stop arguing, stop expecting, stop explaining. You say it's fine when it's not. That's when resentment hardens into self doubt. You start thinking, maybe I'm the problem, but you're not the problem. You're just someone who's finally realizing that love without boundaries turns into exhaustion. It's not that you were too forgiving, it's that you confused endurance with empathy. You mistook pain for proof that you cared. Resentment doesn't make you unhealed, it makes you aware. It shows you every place you gave beyond your peace. Healing that cycle means telling yourself the truth. You're not angry because they lied. You're angry because you knew the truth and stayed anyway. So the next time you feel that tension in your chest, don't rush to make it disappear. Listen to it. That's not bitterness, that's your boundary trying to be born. Because resentment is just a signal, a reminder that your heart is ready to be protected differently. I have a journal prompt here for you guys. Where did I mistake compassion for permission? And the affirmation for this question is I choose peace over people pleasing. Rebuilding self trust does not happen overnight. It's not about a big apology to yourself or a dramatic, I'm never doing this again. It's quiet work, steady work, holy work. You rebuild self trust in the small, sacred moments, the moments no one sees. When you keep a promise to yourself that you could have easily broken. When you tell the truth instead of sugarcoating it. When you walk away instead of waiting for them to change. Every time you follow through on what you said you'd do, your spirit whispers, I believe you again. Because self-trust isn't just about confidence. It's about consistency. It's choosing yourself in micro decisions, again and again, until your soul feels safe with you. When you've been betrayed, it's easy to stop trusting everyone, including yourself. You second guess your instincts, your choices, even your prayers. You start thinking, if I missed it once, I'll miss it again. But God doesn't call you to live in self-doubt. He calls you to live in discernment. He doesn't want you walking around afraid to trust. He wants you walking around aware. Discernment is faith with wisdom. It's hearing your intuition and not needing 10 signs to validate it. It's moving differently because you've learned differently. When you've been hurt deeply, rebuilding trust with yourself starts by treating yourself like someone you're learning to love again. Patiently, gently, without pressure. You start by keeping small promises. Drinking that water when you said you would. Closing the laptop when you promised yourself rest. Leaving the room when peace disappears. Speaking kindly to yourself after mistakes. Those small acts are declarations. Proof that you're not abandoning yourself anymore. And here's what no one tells you about this part of healing. When you start keeping your word to yourself, you'll feel lonely at first. Because the version of you that tolerated everything will start dying. The version of you that made excuses for everyone else won't survive in this new season. But that emptiness, it's not punishment. It's the sound of peace moving in. You'll realize that keeping your promises is how you build emotional safety with yourself. The same way you build it with anyone else. You earn your own trust back, one small act of truth at a time. I have a journal prompt here for you guys. What small promise can I keep to myself this week? And the affirmation for this question is, I am becoming someone I can rely on. There's a moment in every healing season where you realize God wasn't silent. You just keep waiting for the answer to sound like what you wanted. You prayed for signs, and he gave you tension. You asked for clarity, he gave you distance. You asked for peace, and he removed the person that was disturbing it. That's how God works sometimes. Not by adding more, but by subtracting what no longer aligns. We keep expecting him to speak through thunder, but he speaks through restlessness, through discomfort, through the prayers that suddenly feel different on your tongue. God doesn't send confusion, he sends confirmation. And sometimes the confirmation is just silence. That silence isn't rejection, it's revelation. It's God saying, I already showed you. You just don't want to believe it yet. We forget that discernment is divine, that the same God who speaks through scripture also speaks through peace, that your intuition isn't rebellion, it's revelation. When you're rebuilding self trust, part of that journey is learning to honor how God speaks to you. Maybe He talks through dreams, maybe through that song that plays at the perfect moment, maybe through that unease in your spirit that doesn't go away no matter how much you rationalize it. That's not anxiety, that's God whispering. That's his spirit trying to pull you out of something you keep trying to pray your way back into. When I look back, God warned me every single time. I just didn't want his warning to be true. Because his truth would have meant letting go. It would have meant ending something I still wanted. And sometimes what hurts most isn't what God removes. It's realizing he had to remove it because you wouldn't. Trusting what God shows you isn't about understanding right away. It's about surrendering, saying, even if I don't see where this is going, I trust that you're guiding me there. That's faith. Not blind obedience, but intimate awareness. A kind of knowing that says, my peace is the proof. So the next time you start doubting what you feel, ask yourself, is this confusion or conviction? Because God will never contradict your peace. And if he's showing you something, it's not to scare you, it's to save you. I have another journal prompt here for you. Where is God asking me to trust what I already see? And the affirmation for this question is, God's clarity never contradicts my peace. In Dominican culture, we were raised on aguante. Hold it down, hold it in, hold it together, to endure. We watched our mothers stay when they should have left. We saw our abuelas pray through storms that had already passed. We heard the phrases, eso se arregla con el tiempo, or with time that'll change, or tú sabes cómo es él, or you know how he is. And the last one, el amor todo lo puede, or for love you do anything. And we believed it. We believed that love was measured by how much we would tolerate, that being loyal meant suffering quietly, that staying through the pain made us faithful, not fearful. But somewhere along the way, we confused endurance with love. We mistook pain for purpose and silence for strength. And it's not our fault. We learned from women and men who only knew survival, who didn't have the language for boundaries, only the instinct to endure because leaving wasn't an option. But now we know better. We're the generation learning that endurance without peace isn't loyalty, it's loss. We're realizing that faith doesn't mean staying where God's presence already left. Even God doesn't ask for blind loyalty. He asks for faith. And faith is not the same as silence. Faith is listening when peace walks out of the room. Faith is trusting that God's no is still love. Maybe you've been loyal to dysfunction, to old patterns, old friendships, old ways of thinking, because you were afraid of being called inconsistent or selfish. But loyalty that costs your clarity is no longer loyalty, it's bondage. Rebuilding self trust means unlearning cultural conditioning that taught you to stay where your spirit was suffocating. It's remembering that God didn't call you to endurance, He called you to discernment. He's not impressed by how long you tolerate confusion. He's glorified when you choose peace over chaos. There's nothing holy about betraying yourself to prove you're loyal. There's nothing godly about silencing your truth to protect someone else's comfort. Loyalty doesn't mean staying through everything. It means staying true to yourself through everything. And maybe that's the new kind of faith we're called to live. Faith that listens when God says enough. Faith that lets go with reverence instead of resentment. Faith that knows peace is proof of alignment, not weakness. So if you've been feeling guilty for outgrowing people, if you've been questioning why peace feels lonely, remember this. Sometimes the blessing isn't about holding on. It's in learning when to release. You can honor where you come from without repeating the silence that broke them. You can love your roots and still grow differently. And I have another question for you guys. What did I learn about loyalty that no longer serves me? And the affirmation for this question is, my loyalty no longer requires my silence. There's a moment in healing that no one prepares you for. The quiet that comes after you finally let go. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's just still. You wake up one day and realize the ache is gone. The urge to check if they've changed, gone. The need to explain yourself again, gone. What's left is peace. Not the loud kind, but the kind that sits softly on your chest and whispers, you made it. That's what it feels like to rebuild self-trust. To know that your spirit and your decisions are finally on the same page again. Because for a long time, you were at war with yourself. Your intuition spoke, but your heart overruled it. Your peace left, but you stayed anyway. You tried to save people that God Himself was trying to remove. And when they left, you thought it was rejection. But really, it was redirection. Letting go isn't weakness, it's obedience. It's choosing God's will over your want. It's realizing that peace is a proof you made the right decision, even when it hurts. Sometimes God closes a door quietly so you can hear what's waiting behind the next one. And when you stop trying to reopen what He's already sealed, you finally realize it was never about losing them. It was about finding you. That's what release really means. It's not bitterness. It's not indifference. It's gratitude for what came, what broke, what taught, and what left. Because the truth is, the pain didn't destroy you. It delivered you back to yourself. In Dominican culture, we say, lo que es para ti, nadie te lo quita. Or, what's for you, no one will take it away. And it's true. What's meant for you will come in peace, not confusion. It will flow, not force. You won't have to beg for it to stay because it'll feel like home. So stop gripping what God already closed. Stop begging for clarity when He already gave you peace. Stop asking for signs when the silence is already speaking. You can bless what left without bitterness. You can thank God for the lesson, even if the loss still stings. You can stand in peace knowing you didn't fail. you just finished. And I have the last journal prompt here for you guys. What do I need to bless so I can finally move on? And the affirmation for this question is, I release what no longer reflects the person I'm becoming. And now we're going to do our closing prayer. Put your hand on your chest and take a deep breath. And exhale. Dear God, thank you for the endings that didn't make sense but made space. Thank you for teaching me that peace is your language and clarity is your mercy. I ask you to help me release what no longer aligns with my purpose. Heal the parts of me that still question if I did the right thing. Help me forgive myself for the times I stayed too long and trusted too little. Restore my faith in my own discernment and remind me that I am safe when I listen to your whisper, even when it leads me somewhere new. Thank you for showing me that what's gone was never punishment. It was preparation. And may I walk forward with grace, knowing that I am protected, guided, and free. Amen. If you've been doubting yourself, replaying what went wrong, or wondering if peace was worth the price, this is your confirmation. God isn't punishing you. He's preparing you. Trust what you felt like the first time. You don't owe anyone another chance at your peace. You can rebuild self-trust, one promise, one prayer, one boundary at a time. If this message spoke to you, share it with someone who's learning to believe themselves again. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube so you don't miss the next episode. You can also support your healing journey with my blank journals, available now on Amazon. And you can follow me on Instagram at unfill and unapologetic pod. May you trust your discernment the way God trusts your destiny. May you walk with clarity, not confusion. And may you never question again what peace already told you. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you in the next episode.